everybody, and welcome back. I hope you guys had a good commercial break. We've got some great games coming up. This is a ShoWTimE. You know what? Actually, sorry. I got all excited to get introduced into the games, and I didn't talk about who this guy is. Please welcome to WCS Summer, Day 2, EU broadcast, Todd Johan Merlot.
Yeah, it's been lovely to be here. I'm actually very excited. Let's talk about the esports earnings now. I'm actually very, very excited for this PvT, obviously.
Yeah.
It's going to be a really good one. I like this group on paper, right? Because you've got two Protosses, you've got two Terrans, two very vocal Terrans in the name of Hero Marine and MarineLord. I think both of them in general perform pretty good in this matchup. So I really kind of like the dynamic here that we have of these Terran bros going up against the two Protoss bros. ShoWTimE, I mean, basically since forever has been the best Protoss player in Europe. Even when he's performing not so well, even when he's terribly out of shape, all his peers will always say, no, ShoWTimE is still the best Protoss in Europe, even if he had a bad tournament, even if he had 3 bad tournaments. I think this is going to be a fun one, man. I've been recently watching quite a bit of MarineLord, his Terran versus Protoss. A lot of Cyclones and a lot of Hellions. Now, I don't know if he's going to go back to Bio after seeing how well Hero Marine just did, but he likes the battle mech, Jeff.
He likes the battle mech. It's kind of the new rage. But I would say it's something nice, too, that just Hero Marine... Sorry, guys, that's going to happen a few times. I don't know why. Do you do it? Do you Hero Marine, MarineLord?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But it's funny if you think about it, because their names are very different. It's just the Marine part, I guess. One's a Lord, one's a Hero. But for whatever reason,
I like Nate's Hero Lord. Like, there should be a Terran player out there called Hero Lord.
you should take their names and escalate it and just be like, God Marine! Anyways, let's introduce these guys, otherwise you won't know who we're talking about. On the lower right-hand side, it's a French Terran player coming back, and he's been back for a little while. It's the MarineLord.
And a pretty damn good performance at WCS Spring, I would say.
Yes.
He was able to top a group with Hero Marine in that group as well, and Thermo, I believe it. Over here on the left top side, a man who also had a pretty good and strong run at WCS Spring, but he wants more. We know that he's capable of it. It is ShoWTimE.
And even, yeah, the challenger leading up to WCS Spring, ShoWTimE showed good results as well, which has been nice, because that has not been the case in 2018. And again, I always want to add this addendum, mostly because I just want to stay in good standing with ShoWTimE. He's just too handsome to have angry at you. His bad year is still qualifying for virtually everything and still placing like in the top 16 or 8. It's just that he's so good that that's disappointing. To not win tournaments, to not be challenging Cyril, to not be in the short talk of, you know, making a deep run at BlizzCon, that kind of stuff, that's not ShoWTimE. So it's nice in 2019 to see a little bit of a return to that form, but it's still with that specter in the background of, like, you know, yeah, but it's still Cyril, right? And now Raynor and some of these guys.
Yep, a lot of that has to do with the fact that ShoWTimE is pretty much always on top of that European ladder, right? Like, unless Cyril is actually actively playing on an account and wants to have that rank 1 spot, ShoWTimE is very often there. Sometimes it's Raynor, but you'll never see ShoWTimE outside of the top 4 or top 5. He often has at least 1, if not 2 accounts in the top 10, and that's also one of the reasons why people will still always look up to him as the Protoss. A lot of Protoss players, you know, if they reach 6,800 MMR, 6,900, they are in top shape. ShoWTimE is very often casually above 7,000 with 1, if not 2 accounts. So yes, that definitely has something to do with it. We see a Twilight Council opening over here, coming out of our German Protoss. A little bit surprised by that, Jeff, because you don't see it super often. Will most likely be straight for Blink, but a lot of these pros, they actually prefer Robo before Twilight if they want to go for Blink Stalkers. But maybe ShoWTimE is just like, it's a very big map. Or maybe he's going to be a little aggressive as well. That's possible.
All of that's possible. Another thing I want to throw into the ring of possibility is
Dark Shrine.
Well, always the Dark Shrine, but I don't think for ShoWTimE.
Okay.
I think it's more that if you know your opponent likes Battle Mech, just get started on that Blink. So the first couple of Cyclones, if they want to get really frisky about it, you can punish it early. And then also one of the best ways to handle Battle Mech, I find, is if you can start containing it earlier on and then make them be like, well, now I need to get tanks out there, maybe a Thor or 2 to take my 3rd and 4th base. And then by then the Protoss can be on 5 or 6 base, and that's a good way to answer it.
There's already a little bit of a wall-off starting here for ShoWTimE. He's going to need 1 more gateway, but at this point, these 2 Hellions and the Reaper are going to have a very hard time entering the natural.
Unless he lets him in.
Yeah, unless ShoWTimE just doesn't really care too much, but can't imagine that happening. Good job there with the movement of those Protoss units. Robotics facility does get warped in. What I wonder about is the follow-up. MarineLord is actually building quite a few Widow Mines at home, Jeff. He's got 2 mines already chilling in his natural. He's getting 2 more. So perhaps he's going to try to distract ShoWTimE with these two Hellions. I like this move actually. So, you know, going up to 3 bases at the 4-minute mark, no. If you want to do that, you got to bring out the units. I like that move as well by ShoWTimE. Temporarily going for that full wall off.
Yeah.
He doesn't really know about this Widowmine drop. And because the Robo is so late, Jeff, he has no idea that this is coming.
Okay, I know I'm like known for this. He has no idea, but he senses it, kind of. Not necessarily the Widow Mines, but he senses that there was going to be a run by attempt and then a drop in the main. And that's why he's got some forces up there, but as I say that...
he's out of position, though. This is actually a really good play by MarineLord, right? This is the power of those Hellions. It pull the units out of position, and that allows all of these mines to burrow. And even if they won't get crazy amount of probes, they get a Stalker there, so that's very nice. Look at the Hellions!
Yeah.
Where did those come from, Jeff?
The front that was walled in, but is no longer walled in, sadly.
Oh my goodness.
You know what, though? 4 Widow Mines, 2 Hellions, and a Reaper for 6 probes, Kevin?
Yeah, but it's the mining time, Jeff. It's the amount of lost mining time that ShoWTimE lost here. We can take a look at the income graph that just happened over the last 20 seconds, especially with the bio follow-up. It's actually so much more damage than just the 6 probes. And I believe, did the medevac go down? No, the medevac survived, and I think that's also a pretty big plus there for MarineLord. So I think he's very satisfied with the damage he did.
Can we open up the graph, though, on the army positioning situation that we have going on here? There isn't a graph, Kevin. You have to open up your mind!
If you think it was good, Jeff, you can think that. But I think that it was pretty damn solid.
I think it was okay. I think that kind of harass is going to do damage almost every time.
Yep.
So in this case,
this time the medevac.
Mining time, but now it's 1 medevac and 8 Widow Mines for 9 probes and mining time. I think it's okay for ShoWTimE. Oh my god.
I think he's taking too much damage. We'll see how this obviously plays out. Stim is on the way. Charge is on the way. Double Forge being warped in. I have the feeling that if MarineLord plays this well, if he macros well behind all of this, obviously he lost the medevac this time, right? And that makes it a bit painful. He does go up to 3 bases. I do believe that there is a window of opportunity for him to fight against 0-0 gateway units. And just Zealots and Stalkers are not necessarily the dream against Marines, Marauders, and Widow Mines, which he's still building. I really like the way MarineLord is doing this so far. He does, of course, have to be a bit careful. I do agree with you that you can't throw away medevac after medevac, but he's going to go for one more drop. This is probably the final one. The medevac will go down once again. In return, well, this one wasn't that good, right? There's only a couple of probes pulled away.
But the mining time, Kevin.
Yeah, but there weren't that many probes to begin with. I don't know why he just one burrowed that. Jeff, that first drop really was pretty good for MarineLord, I promise you. I've been there many, many, many times.
Yeah, and I never have, right?
I don't know. I always, when I see you, Jeff, you've got cannons and void rays, so I don't know.
Now you know why. Now you know why. I don't want this crap happening. No, the honest answer, and I actually like disagreeing with my co-commentator, by the way. We're handling this pretty well, I think. But it's shades, right? Like, I think that's always going to do damage. And you're right, the missed mining time was one thing. But ShoWTimE, I thought, did a pretty good job of mitigating the amount of damage that was happening there.
Oh,
and now another medevac,
yep.
guys.
These just picked off another medevac. That's medevac number 2 that has gone down. There is one more drop. I did not expect this drop, by the way. I think it's actually a bit crazy, but MarineLord is going up to 3 bases.
That's the 4th one.
Yep. ShoWTimE does spot it with one of his observers. He warps in 3 Stalkers, so he's going to be fine. We can already see those forges spinning very quickly as well. And because this is a relatively big map, losing perhaps the mining time is not as big as on a new Repugnancy or as a Kairos Junction, where you know that next push is going to hit very hard and quickly. MarineLord is still going to go pretty comfortably up to 3 bases here. Look at that army, 64, 65 supply. I mean, ShoWTimE is going to need a couple Zealots, preferably counterattack Zealots as well to do a little bit of damage, but I don't think that's going to happen. And MarineLord is annoying with his drops, so that's a really good pick off there by ShoWTimE.
That observer was not expected. You can see the one that spotted it going into the natural. And it's going to pay dividends here, because every medevac load up is just like, how did he know? And the thing is, with MarineLord, we probably know he's Protoss. He's hacking. He knows everything. But we see these observers in these fantastic spots. This one, it goes right past another observer.
MarineLord scans, sees that a couple of Zealots have been warped in. A few more Zealots are going to be warped in. A lot of Stalkers are heading towards the main base as well. One medevac will go down again. Look at that Widow mine. That mine is so funny.
And he sees that he can see that too. He's got to wonder, is there an observer nearby? Yes, there is.
Okay, so ShoWTimE's defense has been excellent over the last 2.5 minutes. That's for sure.
One thing I do want to note throughout that whole thing, though, is that even with all that harass, ShoWTimE actually always managed to have more probes than workers of MarineLord, and not as big of a deal with, of course, mules, but still a big deal with the fact that it was like 12 Widow Mines were being dropped on his mineral lines, and he maintained that lead. That's huge.
And of course, during all of that, MarineLord clearly was looking for an opening in the defenses of ShoWTimE, but there was nothing to be found there. ShoWTimE just dealt with it with a couple of warp ins, sent the right amount of stalkers to the main base. There is a warp prism right now that's going to fly into the main base. Not a single turret. And ShoWTimE is like, let's see how much fun this truly is, right? When you've got units showing up in your main base when you didn't expect them. There are quite a few bio units here, but that's a lot of Zealots being wiped in. Look at all of these SCVs just sitting there on the refinery. MarineLord perhaps underreacting to this warp prism a little bit. And this game is going solidly quite bad for MarineLord.
Yeah. Widow Mine's going to fire off there, but reveal itself and die. The Zealots have actually won the fight inside the main. And now MarineLord has to run away because force fields would lock that army in and he would just simply die. But his production is under attack by a warp prism that's free to warp in more if it wants to. It's gonna
that orbital. The orbital is actually quite low already.
I've seen that before.
Imagine if you would put the Zealots on that orbital and then warp in 2-3 more stalkers. That could suddenly become very ugly for MarineLord. This is definitely not where our French Terran wants to be. He doesn't have 2-2 upgrades on the way yet. Yes, he has a fusion core and he's making a lot of Liberators, but he doesn't have advanced ballistics yet. That was painful. That was an insane amount of that. Well, MarineLord did a good job in maintaining some of his SUV count, I must say, after losing 14. He's still above 60, so definitely not down and out, but that hurt.
I think a quiet thing you pointed out that's a big deal here is no missile turrets whatsoever. It's very, very common at 3 bases to hit a Terran's base and to have to run past a missile turret or 2 or something, but there's actually 0. So he's lucky that ShoWTimE's even an honorable opponent, because there's a lot of Protoss players, in fact, just about everybody else but ShoWTimE, that would have warped in about 400 DTs in that situation and then spread them out, and it's like, go ahead and scan forever, but you're actually just dead. He actually has no missile turrets, by the way.
Not a single one?
Maybe at the natural. I think he was building one at the natural.
Yeah, he's got 2 somewhere, but obviously 2 to cover 4 bases, or 3 at this point. But
he's just like, he has so much faith in ShoWTimE. He's like, this guy won't make DTs. He wants to win the classic way, right? Honorable.
There is a Phoenix already being produced. If you guys wonder why is that 2 shutdown drops, I think the main thing that ShoWTimE is concerned about at this point is that he saw the fusion core and he doesn't want to deal with a situation where his stalkers cannot reach one of the Liberators that's going to be in range of his mineral line. So to have like 1 Phoenix to at least put some damage and pressure on these libs is nice. I mean, ShoWTimE's army is very beastly, guys. He's got great upgrades. He's even getting better upgrades soon. He's got Storm, he's got double Robo.
Yeah.
But Liberators with advanced ballistics can absolutely make some magic happen, but this is not the way that battle was supposed to start for MarineLord.
Honestly, as crisp and clean as Big Gabe looked in his series against Mana, we're seeing that from ShoWTimE right now, right? Like, the defense was darn near immaculate. And this army composition's really crazy. I love what this does to MarineLord. It's like, hey, I've got Templars, so you better get Ghosts out. He gets the Ghosts out, he's getting Liberators on his starports, and then all of a sudden there's 4 or 6 Colossus. They'll just win the ground battle. Of course, not against the Liberators, but still, super dead against everything else.
Yeah. Is there a War Prism? There's still a Prism indeed on the left bottom side. He's going to wipe in a couple of Zealots and start putting some serious pressure on this fort. MarineLord is here with the majority of his forces, but he wasn't really ready for this fight. Nothing was sieged up yet. This is going to eat another Storm to the face, but the Liberators will keep him safe for now.
Ooh.
No, this could be a very nice double drop, right? The Thermal Lens is actually very late.
Yeah, if he picks that up.
5 seconds. 4, 3.
Not today.
Colossus maybe as well. No, he's not going to be able to get that with all of these Zealots around. At least he denied Thermal Lens.
That's a huge upgrade to knock off. That basically makes the Colossus a huge liability right now.
Especially against advanced ballistics Liberators. They're going to run forward. They're like, come over here.
Well, they were never going to do much there, but even the Bioforce with all the medevacs and upgrades, if you don't have range on those Colossus, they just like run forward, die for free, and they're very expensive. Oops, they got... Oh, our observer didn't want to see that. Go back.
It's not a big weapon. There is finally at least 1 turret, but that's kind of an anti-DT turret, by the way, to go back to your point.
You're right.
That one is not going to keep the War Prism out, but will detect Dark Templars if there are any. Tech Lab gets picked off, but that's not that big of a deal because he already has his upgrade anyway. And I don't think he was planning on making any battle cruisers anytime soon.
No. But we do see Tempest coming out, and ShoWTimE is just a machine. There's been some setbacks, but his upgrades are on point. He's adding a Dark Shrine late game like every Protoss should. And he's even got cannons going up to just make sure that some of these little drops that have been getting past his defenses don't get the damage done that they have been. We're going to have a big fight over here, though. Concave of the Bioforce trying to trap this Protoss army. Whoa, and we've seen this before, too. The pathing is getting complicated a little bit.
What I like what he's doing is how active he is with his main force, and that also allows his Warp Prism in general to be a little more effective, right? Because then Terran players are so worried they're going to eat a big storm to the face, and ShoWTimE was mostly just using that to create some space for his Prism plays once again. Now MarineLord is actually getting himself in a pretty good offensive position. That's not something you want to walk through. That's something ShoWTimE knows as well.
Right.
He might actually have to give up one of these bases. If all of these Liberators are going to set up here, I mean, yes, there are storms. There is a Tempest on the way, but I'd like to see all of these Libs set up at once.
Yep, and we're going to have that fight over here. It's got to be to defend these two bases. Storms are going down, coating kind of the front lines here as the Liberators are being destroyed. And the Colossus now getting their damage, but the Tempest joined the fight, and that's got to be where MarineLord feels that pressure. All of a sudden, he's not safe to just have these Liberation Zones, but it's just a one Tempest, actually. So isolating the 6 o'clock base has been nice. He will be able to kill that. And as our observer beautifully points out here, MarineLord is starting to kind of dry up a little bit. So this damage is good, but if he has no answer for the army composition of ShoWTimE, which is a lot larger of an army, by the way, and then he's starting to lose resources back on his end, Kevin, it feels inevitably bad.
No, I'm with you. It was pretty good, but it's not enough to suddenly be like, wow, does MarineLord have this right now? Is he in the driver's seat? No, absolutely not. So far, this is still ShoWTimE dominating the pace of this game. Sacrificing a base and losing 10 workers does sting a little bit. There was one more thing, by the way, with 2 Marines. MarineLord was able to pick off the Prism. So that was actually quite nice, because it was about to be a massive warp-in near a relatively exposed mineral line. These armies clashing here once again. This is a bit of a chaotic fight, though, for ShoWTimE. Probably wants to disengage. Look at the Dark Templars, by the way. Look at them go. Not a scan. Still no scan. Oh my goodness.
Yep, just adding in that little bit of extra damage now. And with the Bioforce as dwindled as it has been, it's not going to be safe with these Liberators. Actually, as I say that, I really felt like ShoWTimE could have jumped on that, but he's going to respect it. He knows the power of Liberators. Kevin, what do you think about adding Vikings here in the end? I guess you kind of have to as a response to the Tempest.
Yeah, I think you kind of have to, but it almost feels like there's no right choice here anymore, right? I'm not exactly sure with the money and the economy that MarineLord has, which simply isn't very good anymore. After dropping mules on these mineral lines for the previous 16 minutes, I don't think there's too much he can do anymore. I do like this. This could potentially buy him a little bit of time if he seizes up on 1 or 2 of those mineral lines and maybe forces some of these units to come back. You gotta get something done. Like with EMPs, Liberators, and a bunch of Vikings, he can maybe get that miraculous fight that he's looking for. But it's mostly about ShoWTimE making a mistake. And German Protoss in general, Jeff, doesn't make too many mistakes.
Not too many. This is something we've talked about before. If anything, it's that sometimes he plays too careful. But what I really like about this behind it is that he's really expanding pretty aggressively. So he does lose that 6 o'clock base earlier like we saw in that fight. He's since then replaced it with 2 top-end bases that are going to be a lot harder to get to because it's more central to the Protoss, especially with this army being so aggro out here on the map.
The 10 Vikings are pretty cool, but I think in general he needs a few more to really start one-shotting these big units. Because obviously not always all 10 Vikings going to shoot at once. There are a couple EMPs available, but Storm is just so dangerous now. MarineLord doesn't have the money to repair these mechanical units either, right? Every time that these Liberators and Vikings take damage, that's just kind of what it is. MarineLord simply cannot afford to repair everything over and over again.
Exactly. Yeah, and I also like that ShoWTimE has that 6 o'clock base scouted. We've seen a couple of attempts there denied. And he doesn't have the top right-hand side scouted. He's going to jump forward here for a pretty aggressive fight. He must like this angle quite a bit. He's going to back up as EMPs do land on a lot of the Templar. Vikings giving chase, and they do lower the health off that Colossus pretty significantly. The SCVs are being pulled. It looks like this fight might actually just happen whether ShoWTimE likes it or not. Another Storm goes down central mass. They kind of walk into it. Liberator's trying to siege up, but notice the Liberator count, by the way, not super high at all. They've been just kind of shot up here. He's going to give chase.
Notice the medevac count, by the way, Jeff. That's also not very high. All of these bio units, they'll keep stimming, they'll keep running into Storms, and that is probably going to be it here for Game 1, as MarineLord just lost pretty much everything. He knows it. GG. ShoWTimE will take the 1-0 lead.
GG in quotation marks. I like it. MarineLord is one of the more vocal players that doesn't like the Protoss race as much. But honestly, if you watch that game and you don't see the skill of what ShoWTimE does, then I think you're going to be hard to impress. And certainly from the Protoss side, you're probably never going to be impressed. I thought his defense was very good. Kevin and I had a our funny back and forth about it. I think at the end of the day, the drops did do damage, of course, but I was just kind of in awe of how well of a job ShoWTimE did of mitigating that. 6 to 9 probes lost from 12 Widow Mines and a run by from Hellions. A lot of Protoss lose games every single day. Very good Protoss, by the way, to similar kind of harass. And I think that's part of the frustration you can also see from MarineLord, where he's like, come on, man, I'm doing incredible harass, and you're just not giving me anything. And a lot of it was the observer placement, too, by the way.
Yeah.
The middle stage of the game, he saw every drop that was coming in.
He had 3 or 4 observers perfectly spread out across the middle. Like, I think it started very alright from MarineLord. First one was good. Second one, questionable. The third one got completely shut down. And the fourth one also got nothing done. And that point, yeah, then it obviously becomes quite bad. He also expanded pretty fast behind all of this, MarineLord. Now, this is a very big map, of course, so it's not a map, like I said, a K-Rolls or a New Repugnancy, where one drop, hey, that was good. Next push, you know, Marines, Widow Mines, let's go ahead and knock Protoss back to 2 bases or potentially win the game. You can't really do this on Acropolis. But yeah, the drops just... They fell off. The first one was all right. Second one, not so much. And then from that point on, it was all ShoWTimE. It literally was all ShoWTimE.
And one of the things that Protoss can do that is really frustrating to face, and I asked Kevin, I was like, what do you think about the Vikings? And I liked his response, which was like, I don't think there's a good answer right now for MarineLord. And that's also a frustrating concept. But that pressure was applied. He goes from that kind of defensive opening into Storm, into Colossus, into Tempest, and at each phase, it was MarineLord that was catching up to that. He's like, okay, now I need this thing to answer for that. But also MarineLord's attempts to try and be the one to dictate the pace was like, ballistics, like go for the range on Liberators, but by the time he was doing that, he was already facing Tempests and a significant amount of Blink Stalker. So it was just, you could see the frustration in the gameplay from MarineLord, but that was because ShoWTimE orchestrated such a great game, I thought. Yeah,
he actually went for a very quick fusion core, and that's one of the reasons why perhaps the main base felt so exposed to maybe a lot of you guys watching, because there were barely any turrets anywhere. MarineLord's idea of the game was obviously very different. It was like, all right, I'll open up with a couple drops, and from that point on, I'm basically forcing him to defend, and I'm going to be out there on the map, and I'm going to flex my muscles, and I'm going to show him my Terran army, and I'm going to get a good position with the Liberators, and then I get Liberator range, and that's when I'm going to win. But at one point, that just didn't really work out anymore. ShoWTimE is like, all right, now it's my turn. And he never stopped with the Warp Prism arrest. He kept on going in over and over and over again. And at the same time, still moving that middle army around. Never looking for a game-deciding fight, but just be like, hey, I'm here. You better keep your units here as well. Otherwise, I'll attack this base. And that obviously made the Warp Prism play a lot stronger. It was really well done by our German Protoss.
Yeah, I feel like anybody that's like, I'm going to flex on ShoWTimE, both in real life and in game, it ends up usually pretty bad. I think one of the only guys that could flex on ShoWTimE and he will bend the knee is Serral. When he flexes on you, you avert eyes and you just kind of take a knee. But we are seeing some proxy scouting here from ShoWTimE, aware of the fact that MarineLord is not one to build his base entirely inside the main if it should be called for, but in this case, he is going to go for that. And we are on Thunderbird. No, Turbo Cruise. They're both just like old rock songs to me, so.
Oh, really? This is a rock song?
Turbo Cruise? No, it's an actor. Married Nicole Kidman for a little while there. He's just
Tom Cruise.
His name's Turbo Cruise. He's born in '84. I don't know why I'm telling you this right now.
Is he dangerous?
Yeah, of course. Super dangerous.
Is Tom Cruise actually born in '84? No, right?
Heck no, dude.
No, he's way old. I was about to say. I was like, he looked my age in Top Gun, and that's been a while.
He does look good, though.
He does.
He does action movies so great. I've said this for a while. The best action runner in movie history, and that sounds weird, but watch a movie, and then when he does like the panic sprint running away from an explosion, it is, you feel it. That's a run.
This is a good job here by MarineLord. I like what ShoWTimE tried to do there. A lot of Protoss players, they'll scout a little bit later. They keep their probe around, and then when the Reaper is like 80% across the map, that's when the probe shows up in the natural. You will still be able to confirm that they have an expand then, and you can maybe start working on the SCV and be really annoying, and even chrono boost your first adapt and send it to the other side of the map. But MarineLord is like, nope, if I don't see a probe, I'm not leaving with my Reaper, or at least I'm gonna look for that probe. He finds it, but in a way, this is still a scout for ShoWTimE, guys, because at least he knows there was a Reaper being produced on the side of the map of MarineLord. So even if that probe didn't see any buildings, he is like 99.9% sure right now that this is a regular, traditional Reaper fast expand.
Kevin, I have a gift for you.
Say again?
This is a Phoenix that's going to be built off the Stargate in a second.
Think it's going to be
Watch this bold statement from this fantastic commentator that is I. In control.
Oracle. ShoWTimE likes oracles, man.
Yeah, well, every Protoss does. I thought it would be Phoenix because that's a cool response to Battle Mech, which we did not get last game, brother.
No, he did not. And on that map,
And Hellions. It's just a good answer for Hellions in general. And drop play. Why not the Phoenix?
I think he's just more of an Oracle boy. I think ShoWTimE doesn't really believe in the whole Phoenix Colossus style. I think he likes Phoenixes, but it's just like
love him.
No, exactly. It's like if he is convinced that it's the best choice, if he's 110% sure he's playing against something that the Phoenixes will do great against. But right now he's a little more in the dark, right? Because his probe didn't really see anything. His adepts didn't see too much.
You know what though, Roddy? Last time the Widow Mines, they just idled on the ramp, and he was just.
Yep.
MarineLord was all about aggression. So if there's the Mineral Line's getting hit right now.
Yeah, I mean that's a
Probably
couple
check
SCV.
it out, yeah.
And ShoWTimE is right now telling us, you see nerds, that's why I don't make Phoenix.
Nerds.
He's
He
definitely
would say it, but it would sound way more sultry. Nads.
Siege tank on the way, so MarineLord is going to switch things up. He's not going to go for a crazy amount of Widow Mines like we saw before.
Yeah.
He spread.
Another barracks too, so not Battle Mech.
Yeah, maybe he's just going to go for a bigger, heavier two-base push. Like, even though this map feels incredibly big, it actually doesn't take very long to walk through the middle.
No.
Despite those slow bubbles, the slow zones over here, you can actually still make it to the other side of the map quite quick. So maybe a certain Marine tank push is what MarineLord believes in right here.
I agree.
How many oracles do we have? Wow, okay, he went for the 3 oracle opening. I've seen this a couple times as well. They're basically just going to shade past this bunker. Now, I think there is still 1 Widow Mine defensively, right? Yes, he's got 1 Widow Mine in the mineral line. The adepts are going to shade forward. The oracles are going to show up as well. One of them does fly into the mine immediately. Can ShoWTimE get the damage done he's looking for? Can he get the tank? Yes, he does, but I don't think this is going very good, Jeff.
No. This time I would agree. Only 4 SCBs. Yeah, not even the 5th, as the medevac does help there.
There's 1 more Widow Mine. There's 1 more Widow Mine over there on the right side of the oracle. Oof.
Just saw the tail end, but thank you, Neeb, for capturing that. Our wonderful observer here.
Yeah, okay, that was a disaster for ShoWTimE, guys. He definitely wanted way more. He needed way more. 3 oracles and 6 adepts. That is a very, very reasonably sized investment. Look at ShoWTimE's army in this phase in the game, Jeff.
4.
He's got 4 army supplies. He's got 2 adepts.
Hey, there they are. That's ShoWTimE's army.
ShoWTimE is in a lot of trouble. There is a single drop heading towards his side of the map. This game he doesn't have the observer spread either that we saw before. There was 1 probe that just somehow saw this drop coming. ShoWTimE was like, all right, I'm going to send my entire army of 2 adepts and 3 sentries.
You know what's funny though? MarineLord's backing up, and we can see that there's no army for ShoWTimE, and it's not like 8 Marines are about to just end this game, but they would have been really annoying, right? Like if you go tell MarineLord, hey, he's got 3 sentries and 2 adepts, then the drop continues. But sometimes the respect of ShoWTimE is also very real, where you're like, no, he's probably already got Blink, maybe he's making carriers, and I should probably go back home right now.
Do you think the boys will be pulled in this game?
Yes. I think MarineLord after last game does not want this game to go to 10-15 minutes because ShoWTimE looked on point. If I didn't play, if I'm playing ShoWTimE, I'm like, I don't want to go. 5 minutes is all we got. I don't want to see that again. Oh man, he's taking the 3rd. Never mind.
Wow, okay.
God, you were so wrong. Anyways, I was saying, like, no, he's not going to pull. He's going to go for a long macro game, of course. What are you thinking, Kevin?
It's actually pretty crazy, right, that ShoWTimE now is still 15 workers ahead. And he basically had nothing. He had absolutely nothing to deal with any sort of a counter-aggression. If MarineLord would have just grabbed all of his units and run towards the other side of the map, the additional gateways were not even ready.
Yeah.
But ShoWTimE somehow got away with it. He did make 1 more extra oracle. I don't know. Wait, did he cancel it? There was an oracle on the production tab. But I guess
believe you, Kevin, even if the rest of the world doesn't.
He canceled. He almost gets the Raven there. I mean, this army, there is Blink right now. Okay, the drop maybe can do something in the main base. MarineLord has to be very careful. You don't want to lose your Raven. Drops the anti-armor missile.
Oh my god, it missed again. It's the 2nd time we've seen that.
Yeah, against Blink Stalkers, I think that is a little more acceptable.
Well, it gets 1 sentry though.
There is a drop in the main
adept.
base, and let's see if this drop can get something done. A couple of Stalkers have been warped in. They do get the medevac very quickly, but that's going to be quite a few probes falling.
Yeah. This is the best part of that whole thing. So
yep.
the army moves out of MarineLord, and it doesn't do anything. But this drop gets pretty darn good damage.
Wow, you can get some of these Stalkers as well. These Stalkers being warped in right underneath these Marines. Marines obviously doing a lot of damage. Jeez Louise,
wow.
That's 19 probes and 3 Stalkers have gone down as well. 20 workers, 3 Stalkers.
Yeah.
What a drop.
So exactly, this 8-man drop did more damage than 4 medevacs and what, 16 Widow Mines or whatever. I'm not exaggerating. It did more damage.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that was massive, and that obviously is off the back of ShoWTimE having a massive investment in his first initial attack, and that just simply not really working out. Whenever I see that 3 Oracle random adept attack, I'm always like, whoa, this can do a lot of damage, and then you look at it and it almost feels like it never really works out.
Right, right. But, you know, it's ShoWTimE, so he's doing it because he wins 9 out of 10 games doing that, I guess. He would not pull out that build in this situation here. There's so much on the line. Nice little Stalker run by there. Does a little bit of damage, a couple Marauders and a Widow Mine. But mostly just kind of keeping check of the army of MarineLord. We saw what happens when a drop sneaks through. Need to be on top of this here.
I must say I've been surprised with the amount of Stalkers that have been built in both this series and the previous series as well. I think on the Acropolis it made some sense. This time they're all gonna get anti-armored, but I don't think that MarineLord can really get too much more. ShoWTimE's obviously just gonna run away. But even in this phase in the game, he had over 17 Stalkers. Obviously already lost quite a few. 1 point on New Repugnancy between Mana and Hero Marine. Mana has lost like 36 Stalkers and he's still got 18. I'm like, geez, these boys are very, very heavy on the Stalkers.
Yeah. Another anti-armor missile goes down. There's not a whole lot of follow-up here. I'm kind of surprised that MarineLord's going for this. He's got the 2 tanks now. They're up here. The Widow Mine's there as well. It's a little bit of a kind of critically placed. Does go off on the Stalkers, but yeah, this is what I thought happened. It's a very Marauder-heavy army, so he's at risk of losing a lot of medevacs as they do get targeted down here. Wait for that blink. Another medevac dies. Zealot's giving chase. And I think MarineLord had a kind of cool idea, but he chased it way too far back. If you tickle the bear there, sometimes it's going to turn around and bite you.
He also had like 12 to 1400 minerals in the bank, and that's just a little bit too much, right? To have that many units on the other side of the map when you're nowhere near maxed out.
Right.
He was kind of trying to do the same thing as before, where he's like, hey, I'm here with my army, and he was trying to harass. He was sending a couple of Liberators towards the main and Natural, I believe, as well, but definitely in the main base, just kind of trying to get some more economic damage done. Didn't really work out this time, but in the end, I mean, ShoWTimE was only on Stalkers and Zealots there. Stalkers and Zealots in general, they can be good against bio units as long as the armies don't grow too big. But the fights don't need to be like somewhat close. They need to be complete domination from the Protoss. And I don't think that fight even was complete domination for ShoWTimE. Because now you look at what he has left, that just doesn't look that convincing to me.
No, there's more Stalkers coming over to join as some of the army is kind of split off. And it's going to give chase here now. Now, one of the things to kind of keep your eye on, because I don't think the game's going to be decided in the next couple of seconds, but this map, I find, especially with Liberators, can get locked down really hard in favor of the Terran player pretty quick. There's a lot of choke avenues and slowdowns and narrowed spaces that can kind of be linebackered, if you will, where if you lock down those choke spots and the army kind of moves back and forth between that, it's very hard to crack.
Now ShoWTimE is going to be alright over here, but there is another double drop heading towards his main base. I say he's going to be alright over here, but he's actually kind of running out of Zealots. I still think that's going to be okay, but the main base, that double drop, I think that's going to be quite difficult to deal with. These Zealots having kind of an awkward fight, the Marines doing whatever they can. ShoWTimE will be able to clean this up without losing too many probes, actually. I thought that was going to be a little bit worse, but only lost 3 at this point.
Well, we heard it earlier. You were kind of like, this army doesn't look that scary, and that's because ShoWTimE's been doing such a good job of keeping like 8 or 9 Stalkers, which is a pretty heavy commitment, on the right side of the map over here to answer for these drops that he knew was coming. Both these guys face each other on the ladder quite a bit. And you can kind of see it in their play, right? Like there's some weird stuff coming out a little bit, and a lot of that is ShoWTimE being like, MarineLord likes to drop a lot, so his gameplay is kind of built around that right now.
I mean, ShoWTimE actually found himself now in a position that I didn't think he was necessarily going to get in, Jeff. He's got Storm. He's got 2 upgrades on the way. He's building 4 probes at a time and also getting a War Prism. Now, MarineLord, obviously in the previous game, we saw struggles a little bit in dealing with those prisms, especially because he doesn't really invest in any defenses at all. I don't see a sensor tower. And once again, we're 12 minutes into this game. Not a single turret, Jeff. There are 0 turrets on the map.
First one right there, Kev.
Yeah, okay.
12 minutes in. It's a good time to drop 1 missile turret. This is about when ShoWTimE might get invisible. I don't disagree with you, though. The Warp Prism in particular, it feels like MarineLord should have like a lot of PTSD about Warp Prisms flying into his base and just warping stuff in, but so far not so much. Now the army moving out is very technical, and it's backed by a lot of Liberators, which right now don't have much in the way of an answer other than Stalkers. So this spot right here is very powerful.
Yep.
And I hate to say I told you so, but this is something to watch out for. Now the EMPs drop down. They don't hit the Templar, they hit the shields, which might be a pretty big mistake as that first Storm does push back the Bioforce.
Yeah, but does he have enough Stalkers to go through those Liberators? I don't think he does. I think he needs a few more. That pylon very low on HP does land another Storm that clips a little bit of this bio. His tiny force on the right side of the map is going to get shot down. Snipe being used as well on these High Templars. This position, ShoWTimE just didn't see it. If he could have prevented these Liberators from sieging up this closely, he would have had a much easier time in dealing with his army. Because it's not the bio that's scary here, it's those 4 Liberators.
Yep. Now the bio's going to push forward there, but as you pointed out, it's not that strong, and that might trigger this attack here from ShoWTimE. And here we go. The Storm's landing on that kind of right side flank. Stalkers blink forward, but that's not the right call as they immediately evaporate. And here comes the Bioforce, up 50 supply. MarineLord has whittled him down into nothing and will get the tap out. GG is called, and this series is tied up.
Excellent game by MarineLord, especially I think the defense against the Adepts and Oracles early on. He had only one Widowmine there, but it did blow up an Oracle immediately, did splash damage on the other 2.
Yeah.
Even repaired the tank for a split second. It didn't save the tank, but it bought time for more units. And yeah, after that he was in a really good position. I think maybe he could have pushed the pace a little bit harder because at one point his army was like 28, 30 supply. So ShoWTimE is like, well, I'm building probes and I've got 2 Adepts and 3 sentries. I hope I'm alright over here. But because, you know, there was no real commitment to any sort of aggression by MarineLord, ShoWTimE was really able to claw his way back into the game and actually make a game out of it. But MarineLord was always in a good position. Even though I really felt we were on the verge of ShoWTimE truly stabilizing and actually getting the map vision that he wants with the upgrades and units that he wants. And I was starting to get pretty worried for MarineLord that this game too was slipping away from him.
I think it was. I think the one drop that killed 20 probes from 8 Marines and a medevac, a very light investment, getting that kind of damage, was the only thing that slowed down ShoWTimE enough that the Liberator stage of the game became that powerful. Because again, we were kind of looking at it, and the Bioforce that was beneath those Liberators was just not significant. So it was never going to be 4 Liberators just clobber the fight and win it. That Bioforce had to do a lot, but because there was not a good answer and the positioning was so strong, it just gelled nicely, and ShoWTimE got slowed down a lot. So we're all tied up, and I think that's shocking a little bit, because it was looking like ShoWTimE was heading back to that position of like, because every time MarineLord's significant army pushed forward, it was getting stormed, the medevacs were getting picked off, Zealots were getting in there.
Then the final map of this best of 3, Jeff, is going to be played on Kairos Junction, and I'm actually a tiny bit worried for ShoWTimE on this map, because if I think back of the previous 2, yeah, because it's a tiny map. A little bit worried. I think on this map there are a lot of very strong 2-base pushes. MarineLord I think is excellent in general with his early game execution and those first big pushes if he wants to make them. We'll see. I think in general, the bigger the map, the nicer it is for Protoss, because the first medevacs, the Hellions, everything is a little bit delayed, and it allows Chronoboost to often have a bigger impact on those big maps than they do have on the smaller maps. So I don't know. We'll see what MarineLord will bust out. There could be a Proxy Reaper as well to kick things off.
Proxy Reaper, you say?
It's not a bad map
Why
for
not?
it. Yeah.
Why not? A little
Not
French,
a great map for it, but it's not the worst.
little blue cheese.
Yeah.
Well, later ShoWTimE, when you watch this VOD, I want you to hear what I'm about to say. For me, as a ShoWTimE fan, does a small map give me concern? Heck no. That's just less space for him to defend. His defense becomes even stronger on a smaller space map. A 2-base push, you say. This is ShoWTimE. He ladders on the European ladder. He gets 2-base push all day long. And they're more organized. On the NA server, you get 2-base push as well, but it's like, what is that second base? It's got 4 SCVs on it. It's like, is it a base? I don't know.
Is it a 2-base push?
There's a battle cruiser that follows it up, so you're kind of like, what is that doing here? It's like, it's the capital ship. I have Yamato cannon upgrade too, so.
Alrighty, well, let's see what these 2 have in store for us. Of course, the winner will move on to face off against Hero Marine in the upper bracket match, while the loser of this match will drop down to the lower bracket of this little challenger group, where Liquid's Mana is waiting for us. Whoa, is ShoWTimE going for? What is ShoWTimE going for? Just a very quick scout?
Do the Forge. Do the Forge! He just can't rushes in game 3. Everyone's like, what's happening?
It's a quick scout.
Rips off his face. It actually has.
I wonder why he's doing this. He's gonna be like old school annoying. He's like,
He wants to see if it's a proxy.
look at my prop. I'm gonna rush your barracks. MarineLord's like, why?
Look at MarineLord freaking out, yeah. He's like, what is this? He sends 2 SCVs to kill 1 probe, dude. That's respect.
Well, you kind of, I guess you can send 1 at
You
first.
certainly do not need to send 2, Kevin.
No, but the thing is, the first SCV that was building the barracks was already taking some damage. So if the probe would have just continued attacking this SCV, then he would have to stop. Then he would have to send the one that he sent towards the ramp. Then that one has to start building the barracks, but then he has nothing to attack the probe. So
Well, I'd send a 3rd then in that case, as an emissary to kind of talk
2
it out. The
2 is kind of
scrapping is happening
perfect.
over there. Well, what about the, like, emotional support that wounded SCV needs. Like, people talk about it, but
I mean, that's why you send two, right? One is to fight the probe, and the other one is to put a nice warm hug.
Talk him out of it. You're fine, dude. Go back to working on the minerals.
He's like,
I
"No,
just wanted to build a barracks, and he started cutting me with his little laser thing. I don't understand.
this is really necessary."
Because that is a person, and this is a dog-sized robot that just walks up and starts nibbling at you. It's terrible.
All right. Well,
we love this game, but if you like go down to the like sometimes a Marauder gets eviscerated by a Psyblade. I'm like, this game's brutal. There's dudes dying out there, man.
It's going to be an Adept first for ShoWTimE. MarineLord obviously respecting the potential aggression that Protoss has on this tiny map as well very early on. We've seen plenty of games where the first two Adepts somehow delay that command center for 25-30 seconds. Man, this Reaper is like a heat-seeking missile for probes.
This is that moment in my stream where I'm like, this guy hacks. Barcode every time. It's MarineLord on the NA server. I'm like, oh shoot. Probably not hacking then. I guess it's just really good.
Well, it's going to be a robotics facility as the follow-up. Robo's obviously pretty strong defensively. Can give you a quick observer so you know what kind of aggression is coming if Terran does want to be aggressive. Really good job with the bunker. I think a lot of Terrans are still stubborn on these tiny maps where they're like, no, I'm going to try to do it without. And then two Adepts show up and this command center actually finishes up at like minute 4.5.
I don't disagree, but we are talking about a Terran player that literally waits 13 minutes to make a single missile turret. So we're still talking about a Terran player that has weird ideas about defenses at base. And like, no sensor towers ever. He's like, that's cheating. I have comsats. I don't need that as well.
Yeah, that's very nice for a War Prism player. So there's no sensor towers. It's like, wow, this is so cool. No sensor tower, no missile turrets. What a nice guy. If only all Terran players were
as nice as MarineLord.
Yeah, this hospital towards my prism. You know. Come on in and have a cup of tea.
Wow.
Warp in some zealots.
Look at that. And there's no detection. I guess I'll warp in some.
This is a... Whoa, okay, that's a bit sloppy there by MarineLord. He just let his Reaper get surrounded by pros. But he did get one, and I guess he got the scout. Let's just make sure that he did indeed see the robo, but I can only assume that he did. Yeah, it's in natural, he passed it.
Adepts not let in. Not today, Adept people.
That's a very fast robo bay, yeah? That's by far and away the fastest robotics facility we've seen. And a War Prism now as well. Don't, like if this is
him, Nana did one.
If this is a puck game, I'd be like, wow, is he going for a disruptor drop? No, with ShoWTimE that would be kind of a bold statement, but
ShoWTimE might just be elevating these Adepts into the main that he's been trying to get in this whole time.
No, absolutely. I think you're spot on. Maybe McColossus it at home. He's perhaps expecting a...
Oh no!
No, this is going to be disruptor.
Look at this guy go.
Wow. Is he going to get War Prism speed as well? Oh my goodness, ShoWTimE. Busting out all the fancy move. Now this could be very good if MarineLord pushes quite late. I mean, he's going to eat some big shots, right? If you don't have stim, it's almost impossible to avoid those purification novas.
Yeah.
Wow, it's cool
build. It's a good answer in game 3 here against MarineLord. Also, if you don't have a Raven, then it's just good forever. Yeah, this push is going, isn't it? Or is that just a single medevac with 2 Widow Mines?
That would actually be almost a perfect scenario for MarineLord because ShoWTimE obviously doesn't have a lot of units at home. I mean, I'm sure that this first Purification Nova is going to get 4 or 5 SCVs, most likely. But then at least MarineLord knows, which I think is a little bit better than him moving out and eating that shot to the face with like 12 Marines.
Right.
That would be devastating.
First shot.
5.
Oh my god.
Oh my goodness.
He didn't move at all. He didn't move at all.
Nope.
He's like, I'm harassing. You're supposed to also harass. And now he's going to lose the meta.
No.
He goes for it anyways. Wait.
I'm actually very surprised that both of those mines were able to shoot in the end, and the medevac got out of there.
Yeah. That
could have gone a lot worse for MarineLord. It still wasn't good, guys. I'm absolutely not going to tell you it was good, but that could have even gone a lot worse.
Oh, yeah. And here comes the Raven, though, which is a nice answer for any kind of robo play, which we do see Colossus the follow-up, of course. But 8 SCVs for a Terran, so it's, you know, balance winding aside, when a Terran loses that many workers, it's devastating. When a Protoss loses, you know, 4 or 5 or something like that, they can Chrono Boost that out. That's almost nothing at all. You have to get like 10 plus, I feel, against a Protoss for it to really, really be felt. Of course, everything is felt. My point is, it feels like it's more significant against the Terran.
It was very nice for MarineLord, at least that Raven was able to spot that observer. And that makes it a little bit harder, right, for ShoWTimE to get those dream hits. Vision is everything when you're flying around with a Prism and a Disruptor inside of it. He's going to pick up his second Disruptor as well. MarineLord is most likely just going to produce a whole bunch of tanks, but it's going to be so hard. Don't you think he needs like a Viking or two to make it to the other side of the map as well? Or he's just going to rely on the Raven and Stim?
Just the Raven, I guess. I like to try, if you're ShoWTimE, I like to try to bait out the shutdown, by the way. Because it actually has time in its travel, right? It's an actual missile. It's not an auto cast, or like an immediate cast, rather. So as long as your disruptors are safely in the Warp Prism or away, baiting out one or two offensively over here is really nice for your Colossus back at home, but he's not looking to be too aggressive. He's just spotting the high ground with the disruptors and saying, hey, if you come walking over here, you might eat two disruptor shots.
The Raven is actually gonna have a little sneak peek as well. What's waiting for it? Spots that prism, now sees the disruptors. Now obviously there is a tank. Maybe depot? No, it's just some damage on the bunker. ShoWTimE, despite that first great hit, didn't really get much done up to this point, and now he just kind of wasted 2 shots, and that allows this Terran army to at least make it to the halfway point of this map. He could have dropped it, but obviously I think he was trying to do what you said, Jeff, and then just baited out.
He might have been.
There is Stim, by the way, so that was a risky move by ShoWTimE.
God, it's the flank of disruptors. They're spotted this whole time.
Spotted by these 3 Marines. He doesn't get anything. He misses 2 more shots. Now that's basically 4 shots in a row where he got nothing done. This is going to allow the tanks to get to the other side of the map. Are we going to see an interference matrix here? ShoWTimE is in trouble, Jeff.
I mean, yeah.
Tiny map.
The bio...
Sorry. Well,
Disruptor does get shut down. It shuts down the Warp Prism and the Colossus, so this natural is just unlocked. There's... Wow, I like the recall there, though. The Colossus is so much damage over there, but he's locked in with a Tiger. He does get some damage, and one tank kind of crawls forward. I still like the positioning of MarineLord by a lot. He's up a little bit in supply, and I believe he has another lockdown on that Raven, or he's coming up on one.
The Prism is still here, though. Those Disruptors are still available as well. One of them is going to shoot, and actually Interference Matrix will prevent the shot from going down. ShoWTimE has lost 2 Colossus before, but this one last Colossus, Jeff, is actually putting quite some work in.
Absolutely, and he's able to clean this up. The tank on the low ground is doing some good damage, but Immortal gets relocated over there and is destroyed. ShoWTimE pushes this back, and Crisis is for now averted. It was looking really bad with the army kind of isolated away from that natural, but the recall was a good answer. And even then, though, one Colossus was like snap killed by the Bioforce that was right underneath it, but the force field's locking them into place, and then the other Colossus doing such good AoE damage was just enough.
One thing I'm very worried about for ShoWTimE is that he doesn't really have a great army to defend against drops at this point. Blink is only now starting. All the medevacs survived that previous fight, so basically all the MarineLord needs to do is get a bunch of bio. He does have that double drop heading towards the main base. There are a couple spotter pylons, but he's going to take care of that. And basically the next minute and a half in this game, it's terrifying for ShoWTimE. He doesn't have, Jeff, a single observer out on the map, and he doesn't want to make observers right now because he wants to remake those Colossus and those Immortals that he desperately needs.
Yep, I don't disagree with you. He's got a Speed Warp Prism fluttering around here, trying to scout out where these armies are, spotting it. Good intel there. And again, you can see the respect for MarineLord. He does kill those 2 pylons. They're spotter pylons, as Roddy said. But the fact that he was spotted does deter the drop for now. So that the drop defense you were talking about lacking, you're right. But now it's being shored up. 3 base Protoss maintaining 68 or so probes this entire time. It's fully saturated. He's looking good.
And something you don't see very often, Jeff, and I actually just realized now, is that the Raven survived. And that means more interference matrix.
Yeah.
It's not super common.
And this positioning is devastating. The Liberators get on top of this base. The Bioforce is going to get to work on this Nexus itself. It's just the Colossus that are using their range to try and kill that Bioforce. And a Disruptor shot goes out. Oh, and it gets a pretty good shot there on the right side, but I don't know that it's enough. The Colossus being shut down means this Nexus could be in danger. Another Disruptor shot, but now the Colossus are back online. It is only just the 2 Liberators. So if he can win positioning here and this Bioforce gets whittled down anymore, then he can blink on top of just those Liberators.
Yep, Blink is going to finish up in 4 seconds. ShoWTimE does a miraculous job in keeping this base alive. At the same time, a War Prism, the Speed Prism, is going to show up in the natural. He's going to be able to pick off quite a few of these SCVs. Big warp in the main base, but there are Liberators here to take care of that one.
Fantastic Liberator play. They're not great at chasing off Warpers, especially a speed one, unless... Okay, no, ShoWTimE is going to boost away.
Maybe use the rest of the army. Did the Raven go down this time? The Raven is still alive. What?
Unacceptable. It's barely alive, though. Super wounded. Now, the Liberators are a problem. Showing up in that position was a big deal. If ShoWTimE allows that to happen again, 2 Liberators, you know, that's like forgivable. But if it's 6 or 8, he's just dead. Now, the army, it's just here. And MarineLord doesn't know, so he's completely out of position. This base is going to get jumped on top of. He is going to come back from mid-map, but that means the Liberators are out of position. Disruptor shot goes off, trying to zone away. The Raven dies immediately.
He's got so many Marauders, by the way. Storm is available, Disruptors are available. Those are the units that are supposed to keep these Marauders at bay. Because if the Marauders can stim forward, there's only a single Immortal in that army, but there is a lot of splash damage.
MarineLord's making a weird choice. He scans and sees the army, but it's going to run away from it towards the Protoss. He's going to try and take a fight right now, but this Bioforce, it's not the scary part. It's the Liberators, which are now inside the natural. So we're going to have... Oh, and the recall, he's not actually sieged up. That means the Protoss army jumps on top of the Storms going down on everything.
Oh my goodness.
And he's sandwiched into Wazoo. Where do you... I mean, he's going to try to drop the Liberators right there, and that's an okay choice, but he loses everything.
I actually got a lot of Stalkers in the end. It would be awesome if you can save a couple of your Medivacs, MarineLord. Those are pretty expensive. It doesn't even matter, apparently.
Wow.
GG. If you guys were wondering, what was MarineLord doing there in the end? The Warp Prism flew back into the main base once again, dropped a couple Zealots, went for a Warp in. MarineLord clearly did not expect the recall, because I think if he sieges everything up a little bit quicker, let's see let's see how that goes. But he clearly wasn't paying attention.
Oh.
There's a crazy call by ShoWTimE there in the end, and a pretty funny series, I would say, Jeff.
It was, and this is going to be one that MarineLord's going to have some upset words about, and I don't blame him. That attack earlier on, it was a recall that saved ShoWTimE. The choice to recall from his third into his natural was the saving grace. The 3 tanks on the low ground, and then that Bioforce as kind of a dead man zone. You don't go through there. You're just going to die. So that one ability is what saved him in that situation. And then in the end of the game, it's only recall that saves him again. If those Liberators were sieged up and he was paying more attention, maybe even that won't be enough. But even then, like you said, there were Zealots running amok on top of production. They'd already killed 15 SCVs. So if he wins the natural, unless he kills the whole army and then jumps on the gateways, ShoWTimE might still actually win that game. He had a really big, scary army.
Yeah, to go back to that recall that you said, like, it felt like, oh my goodness, how's this going to play out? One Colossus right in the front gets picked off immediately, but he dropped a couple force fields, and suddenly, like, that's a significant amount of bio that just got trapped there. It's like, is ShoWTimE holding? And it was a really close call, but he did. And I'm even more impressed with how he survived the 2 minutes after that. 0 observers against a Terran like MarineLord, but hey, those random pylons apparently were enough to keep MarineLord at bay. And keeping that Nexus alive against those Liberators, even though he didn't see that attack coming either. That was a really fun series.
It was, and we got to see showcased what ShoWTimE's known for, and that's his defense. It was only that kind of allowed him to survive MarineLord here. So that does set up our next match, which is going to be that, I believe it's the lower match, which is Mana versus MarineLord, another TVP, and that sets up our winter match, of course, which is another TVP. We just got a couple of excellent matches, and we're in for some more. So we're going to go to commercial break. When we come back, guys, we'll have Mana versus MarineLord. Don't go anywhere.